Alright guys, this is going to be the total disassembly of the Jacobs Tactical MC9. Pretty similar to every other 2011 platform. It's going to be kind of a weird angle. I'm filming up over my left-hand shoulder here, but like I said, it's complex, but it's not overly complex. If you've taken apart in 1911, it's essentially the same thing. Alright, so the tools I'm going to be using, a couple different size Allen keys for the recoil system, and then taking the grip apart. Q-tips for cleaning, a little bit of Froglube for lube. Always got a Glock tool around just in case I need to fiddle around and move something, and then I got a drink over here before my voice goes out. So, first step, obviously make sure the gun's completely unloaded, which it is. I'm going to remove the guide rod out of the front of the gun. Take that, set it aside. Then I'm going to take my bushing, rotate it off to my left, then out comes my recoil spring cup, or whatever you want to call that. Rotate the bushing out the other way. Barrel bushing comes out. Then cock the hammer, pull the slide right back to the disassembly notch, pull the slide stop out. I like to flip the gun over so nothing comes flying out at me. Remove the grip, or the frame. Take the rest of my recoil spring guide rod assembly. Then I can pull out my barrel, KKM barrel. Now I have the slide. Top end of the gun, pretty simple. Not going to take this apart because it's pretty darn simple. All you would do is you'd push the firing pin down through the slide, pull the back plate off, the firing pin and spring would come out, and then you can just push that extractor through and the whole thing comes out in one big piece. Obviously there's a set of sights on there from Dawson. Nice big red front post. My really only complaint about this gun from the factory or from the shop is that it has green fibers in the rear. Super easy to replace. I'm going to just take those out and leave them blank. I prefer to have a plain black rear sight. Alright, so now we get into the meat of the issue. This is the grip assembly as well as the frame. If you've taken a 1911 apart, this is going to look kind of similar. There's only one difference. The grip on a 2011 is not actually part of the frame. As you can see, it's plastic, stippled. It's bolted to the frame. These ones are actually just for looks, pretty much. These ones are the ones that are holding the grip to the frame of the gun, and then up right there. So, first step of this is I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the front screw. This requires 2 Allen keys. They're pretty small. Kind of tricky. Balance it on the table. And I'm just going to pop the screw out. So one side, as you can see, is kind of just basically this little button screw. The other side is a shoulder. So I'm going to take my Glock tool, press that out if I can. Alright, so you can see that one's got a little shoulder on it that goes through the pin in the front of the grip. So I'm going to screw those back together so I don't lose them. Put that up there. Then take my larger Allen key, remove the grip screw, 1 and 2. There are grip bushings in the frame of this that will fall out on you, so you'll see those in just a second when I get them out of here. This one on this side of the gun is kind of stiff. This other one should fall out pretty simply. Alright, so you can see those grip bushings. Those just sit in the frame, provide tension against the grip screws. This one's been a little bit harder to get out. Now I know there's probably an easier way to do this. Some 1911 armor somewhere is probably screaming at me right now, but I'm a simple guy, work out of my garage, so it's a little too big. Let's see here. My handy dandy punch and hammer. I'll just tap this out of here. Alright, so grip is now loose. What I probably should have done first is remove the mag well. Mag well comes off the back first and then the front. And then you can pull the mainspring housing out of the gun, just like any other 1911. And now my grip will come off, no problem. I got my triple spring right there. I'm not sure what the technical name of that thing is or something, but all right, now you can see this polymer grip. All that's really in here is the trigger bar with the trigger bar in the back and the magazine catch. Pretty simple, just a spring and a latch for the magazines. Don't knock my drink over here. All right, and now we have what is the frame of this gun. So it looks pretty different than a 1911 frame. This is when you get into a little bit of the differences, but these parts are essentially the same. Put the hammer up here, flip up, see if I can get pull my safety off. So left side, rotate up because there's an ambi safety, pull the right side off that. Safety's off. The Mac strap, the beaver tail, will fall off the gun. Now all that I'm left with is my hammer and the trigger parts. So I'm going to take my Glock tool wherever it went, press that one simple pin out, the hammer then will fall out of the gun, and all that I'm left with is my trigger parts right there. So that just moves the sear up and down. I got my detents for the slide stop and for the safety, and Bob's your uncle. That's it. So pretty simple. This is the frame of the gun, as you can see, laid out in front of you. Overall, it's not too complicated of a gun. I actually enjoy taking it apart and looking at it because it's one of our Lord and Savior John Moses Browning's designs, and it's elegantly complex yet simple. Every part does, if not two jobs, it does one job very, very well. So there it is, all laid out in front of you. I'm going to go ahead and start reassembling this in the exact same order that I took it apart in. So I'm going to actually go ahead and wipe off a little bit of this old grease. Not old, but factory grease. Maybe put a little bit of Froglube on some parts just to keep it lubed up. Insert my hammer. There is a little rib. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little rib on this side of the pin, and it's flat and domed out on this side. Don't try pounding this thing in, guys. If it doesn't go in, flip it around and try it the other way. Pretty simple. Hammer goes in, and I can take the beaver tail and the safety one side at a time, put it in, rotate it down, and then put this side in. You do have to get something behind it to push the detent in, and line it up, and it should just snap in like that. So now you can see it's in there. There we go. Turn it off. Hammer up. Alright, now this to me is the tricky part, getting the grip and everything back onto the gun. So first thing that I'm going to do is install the grip. Just slide it into place. Keep the beaver tail up on top. As you can see, this beaver tail has a notch and there's a pin, so this safety is actually pinned in place. It won't actually come out and you have to disengage it with the webbing of your hand. That's just for competition use. A lot of people prefer that, some people don't. It's definitely not something I would have if this was a defensive gun. I'm going to go ahead and put this front grip screw in kind of tight. I have noticed that if you start to rotate it, it usually goes in. There we go. Flip it around to get the other side going. Now, I don't Loctite these for obvious reasons. I've met some people that do. I'm not a fan of that just because these are real small screws, and if you strip one out, you're kind of screwed unless you have probably a milling machine to get in there and mill this screw out. I really wouldn't want to bugger it up on a drill press or anything like that. Alright, so now I got the front of the grip nice and held in place. I'm going to take my triple spring, tri-spring, whatever you want to call it. Going to drop it and then go ahead and actually put it in the gun. Slide it in just like a normal 1911 while keeping my hammer, spur, whatever you want to call that, little rat tail. Use like I said, this is kind of the tricky part, guys. So get that spring, you see there's a notch for it. What you'll see is you need to actually hold the bottom of the spring and push the safety or the beaver tail down over it, while also making sure that your little rat tail right there for your hammer is lined up. Then insert part of the way, insert the mainspring housing. It's not lined up yet, and this will get pinned in place. So then what I'm going to do, take my grip bushings, get these back into the gun, one side, partially start these screws so that the grip doesn't go anywhere on me. One side. This one's kind of hard. Make sure you get that one in place, and you can see there's actually a little steel sleeve on the inside of the grip that you need to get lined up with that grip bushing so that the screw will sit flush. Get that all lined up. Give those grip screws a nice turn. Make sure they're nice and tight while I fling that wrench across the bench. Make sure they're nice and tight. There we go. Alright, grip's in place. Now what I can do is finish installing my mainspring housing, which will require flipping that little tail up into place. Alright, there we go. Now you can see as I push down on the mainspring housing, it puts pressure on the hammer. I'm actually going to, at this point, reinstall my magwell, which will hold that in place. Get my hammer here, make it a little easier. This slides through. I give it a nice little push with my Glock tool, get it in place. Alright guys, so I actually went to edit that last video, and I noticed that the video cut out for some reason, so I'm going to start back up with the completed, fully assembled grip and frame assembly. Everything's good, everything functions, so now we're going to rebuild the top end of the gun, make sure the link is flipped forward on the barrel, slide it in, make sure it seats down, flip my link up a little bit, take the back end of my recoil spring assembly, drop it onto the gun. This gun is kind of finicky with the link, so I set it forward. I like to do this upside down so nothing comes falling out of the gun when I don't want it to. And then match the slide stop up with the link. Side the gun, match it up with the slide stop. The disassembly notch, slide the gun forward. Get my barrel bushing on the gun, rotate it around to the left. Then my spring and spring cup. Make sure that that bottom part of the spring assembly is in the right spot, which right now it's being a pain in the butt. There we go. Push it down, rotate my barrel bushing into place, locks down, take the threaded end of my full-length guide rod, get it into the gun, screw it on. You want this tight, but you don't want to crank on it so that you can't get it back out. And there you go, fully assembled, disassembled, and reassembled 2011 MC9 from Jacobs Tactical. Locks open, functions fine, slide stop functions, trigger sets, resets, works perfectly. There you guys have it, fully assembled and disassembled Jacobs Tactical MC9 9mm limited setup.